I am just outside of Bowling Green, Kentucky. I preached a revival this Sunday in Louisville, and I'm driving back to Huntsville, and I saw this beautiful field of yellow flowers, and I knew I had to stop my car and do your devotion right here. Because the devotion today out of 1 Samuel chapter 20 has to do with an arrow and a field. But before we get to chapter 20, a little bit of review. We're talking about the life of King David, and the story begins in chapter 17 when David defeats Goliath. It was a great victory for the nation of Israel. But in chapter 18, we discover that the people made up a little song. And in the song, they're celebrating by singing, Saul, that would be King Saul, has killed his thousands, but David has killed his tens of thousands. Now, Saul did not like that song one bit. We're going to see a theme with Saul and music. He didn't like the song because he only got credit for thousands. David got credit for tens of thousands, and Saul thinks to himself, what else can he have but the kingdom? So what we have happen next in chapter 18, King David is playing his harp, and Saul is listening, and Saul, who begins to lose his mind just a little bit, takes a spear and throws it at David, throws it into the wall, trying to kill him. If you don't like the song, O king, I could play you another. But the song wasn't the issue. Jealousy was the issue. So we move into chapter 19, and this is where Saul's son Jonathan speaks to his father on David's behalf. Jonathan and David had become dear, dear friends. The Bible says they loved one another. And Jonathan says to his dad, David has been so good for the kingdom. He defeated Goliath. He's fighting against the Philistines. Why would you do such a thing? And Saul says, you're right. I won't harm David anymore. But by the end of chapter 19, Saul again throws his spear at David while David is playing the harp. So now David knows he has got to get out of town. David leaves his wife Micah so that he could run for his life. But first, there's a conversation with Jonathan. Now that brings us to today's chapter 20. And David says to Jonathan, what can I do? Your father's trying to kill me. What have I done to him? And Jonathan says, David, no, my father won't do it. He'll let me know first if he meant to harm you. So David comes up with a plan, and this was the plan. Your dad will expect me tomorrow for the feast to dine with him and you and Abner. Why don't you tell him this when I'm not there? If he asks where I am, you just say I had to go to Bethlehem to do some things with my family. And if your father is okay with that, then I will know that I'm safe. But if he loses his temper, then I will know that he intends to do me harm. So they come up with this elaborate plan, but you can't just text your friend and say, I'll text you and let you know if you're good to go, if the coast is clear. So this was the plan. It involved an arrow. Jonathan said, day after tomorrow, after I find out how my father feels, I will come to this field and I want you to be hiding, and I will shoot these arrows to the right-hand side of this rock, and I'll have a little boy with me, and I'll tell that boy, I'll shoot 3 arrows, and I'll tell that boy, if the arrows are to the right of you, to the side of you, that means you're safe, all is good, my dad won't hurt you. But if I tell the boy the arrow is beyond you, go a little bit further, that means you're in trouble, and my dad is going to try to kill you. So they have the dinner. David's not there. King Saul says nothing. So the next night, they sit down for dinner again. David is still not there. King Saul looks at Jonathan and says, where's David? Jonathan tells him the story, and Saul loses his temper. He says, what is wrong with you? You're the son of a perverse, rebellious woman. He's talking to his own son, Jonathan, now. Don't you know as long as David is alive, you'll never be the king? And then Saul throws his spear at his own son, Jonathan. Somebody needs to take that spear away from Saul. So now Jonathan knew that his father was truly going to try to kill David. He went to the field the next day. He shot the arrow. The boy ran after it, and he said, "No, it is beyond you." And that's when David knew that Saul would not stop trying to kill him. David and Jonathan at the end of the chapter have one last meeting as friends, and as they're talking together, you see the depth of their love. And Jonathan says to David, "I will do anything for you, my friend." And as we read in the coming chapters, you'll see that that is true. Jonathan was a true friend to David. And just to give you a life application, I want you to think about the friendships in your life. Who is it that you know who could really use a friend today? Maybe no one's trying to kill your buddy, but maybe you have someone struggling with a child, or there's some kind of issue in their family. Maybe you have a friend who lost a job. Maybe there's one of your friends who's struggling with an illness. Maybe you're not even aware, but God puts that person on your heart. I want you today, just as we close, to think about how you can be a true friend to someone who is in need. I hope this lesson blessed you. I hope you enjoyed the field of yellow flowers behind me. I'm going to hit the road again so I can be in church this Sunday and preach to you on Mother's Day. Have a blessed day.